I just applied 16 years of marketing knowledge and said, let's go. Let's give it all we've got. Let's try things. Let's test things. Lucky and fortunate for Lurn, we have an amazing team. We got smart people, hardworking people. They put their hearts and souls into it. And next thing we know, almost close to 500,000 listens in the first 100 episodes. Can you imagine where this thing is going?
This is The Fighting Entrepreneur, the podcast dedicated to entrepreneurs looking to change the world. Learn how to start, build, and scale a business in today's highly competitive business environment. Here's your host, The Fighting Entrepreneur, Anik Singal.
What's up, you crazy fighting entrepreneurs? Welcome to episode number 100. That's right, we did it. Woo! All right, listen. I'm going to try my best to make sure I blow you away with amazing content in this one. I'm going to reveal to you in this episode what I searched high and low for all over the internet, and what even my own team members came to me and said, Anik, this doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And I'm like, wow, I don't take that really well. So I think we're going to just do it ourselves. Are you ready? So this episode, we're going to show you how we growth hacked. Oh, yeah, that's right. But that's what I said. Growth hacked a podcast up to 425,000 listens in just 9 months and this is our 100th episode. So that's pretty good, right? That's a pretty fast growing podcast. And we're going to show you exactly how we did it. It's going to be a very special episode because I'm going to bring in our team members. So these are the team members that actually build this podcast, that do all the hard work. I'm the one that just comes here and, talks, and they do the editing, they do the marketing, they do everything. So they're all going to come on later in this episode, and they're going to give you their own golden nuggets of specific tactical techniques and tricks and secrets used to grow your podcast. Now, we're not about fluff here, right? So we're all about the tactical. What I want to do is walk you through my journey in this episode of how this podcast began and kind of the hurdles I hit. And I think it's going to blow your mind. If you have a podcast, you 100% have to listen. If you've been even thinking about a podcast, you're going to really relate to what I share with you here, because this has been not just a journey of roses and rainbows. It's had some thorns along the way, and I want to help you out, walk you through it. But before I get into any of that, come on. What's it going to be, Fighting Entrepreneur? Are you a member at Lurn, Lurn.com or not? It's a free lifetime membership. Listen, we've already got over 300,000 people in there. We are going to have more than 10 million in there in the coming couple of years here. You can either stand by and watch this movement go right by you, or you can join the movement. So what's it going to be? Come on, get into Lurn.com. Connect with entrepreneurs all over the world, Lurn.com. Free membership. There's tons of free courses, and there's tons of awesome paid courses. There's courses in there that are $2. Trust me, you got to get in. All right? Okay, so now let's do it. How did we hit 425,000 downloads in just 9 months? Now, when I say downloads, I'm referring to listens and views and downloads all collectively, okay? So it includes YouTube, and it includes every platform humanly that we can track, right? Some we can't, but all the ones that we can, they're included in this. So I'm going to show you the breakdown. How many of them came from YouTube? How many of them came from audio sources? I'm also going to talk to you about how we grew the episodes. So we started with 1 episode, then we went to 2, and we went to 3, and how that's impacted our podcast growth. We're going to talk about all kinds of cool things. So first, let's do the breakdown. Total views / listens / downloads. We've now had 425,000 in 9 months. We started this podcast December of 2018. As obviously I filmed this, it is September of 2019. 42%, that's about 178,000 of that number, comes from Spreaker.com. So Spreaker is a tool that basically tracks all your downloads. It's your iTunes, and it's got Spotify and all these things in one place. And then 58% came from YouTube. Right there, you got to pause. 58% came from YouTube. How many podcasts do you know that are not putting the extra time and energy in to do a video and to just upload it to YouTube? It's been huge for us. It's been huge. Does it add more work? Absolutely. But by being able to do video, we're able to tap into social media outlets, which you're going to learn is one of the biggest drivers to our growth. It's one of the biggest drivers to our growth. So we've been able to have that video and chop it into little pieces and put it up all over social media, which drives traffic back to our podcast. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Anik, and I'm going to address this right up front. You have 425,000 because, well, you're Anik Singal. You have a huge following. You have a big email list. And so I'll say 50-50. Yes, of course, having had a following to begin with helps a ton. There's no doubt. But you would be surprised if I told you how little I've actually emailed my whole list about this podcast. Since I began the podcast, maybe I've sent 15 or 20 emails throughout a course of 9 months, maybe to the entire email database. For the most part, it was my goal, my mission, my vision to make this podcast live on its own. As a matter of fact, I wanted the podcast to attract new audiences to us. I did not want the podcast to be something that only serves existing audiences. I wanted it to attract new audiences because I wanted it to have marketing and monetary value to my business. That would give me the ability to give it more resources. So a lot of the growth that we're going to talk about has come from things that you can do if you're starting a brand new podcast. So you got to listen, you got to pay attention. So, we're going to talk a lot about marketing, and that's the topic that I got to tell you, try it right now. Google this. We did this so much, okay? I've had multiple team members that spent days, if not weeks, trying to figure this out. Go to Google and type in growth hacking a podcast. Go to Google right now and type in how to grow a podcast. You know what you're going to hear? The most generic, fluffy crap out there. Be persistent. Be consistent. Interview other people. Get those people to promote your podcast. Post it on your, Facebook page. And I'm not saying that those don't work, but that's not growth hacking, man. So that wasn't enough for me. And so we searched high and low. Couldn't find anything. So I just applied 16 years of marketing knowledge and said, let's go. Let's give it all we've got. Let's try things. Let's test things. Lucky and fortunate for Lurn, we have an amazing team. We got smart people, hardworking people. They put their hearts and souls into it. And next thing we know, almost close to 500,000 listens in the first 100 episodes. Can you imagine where this thing is going? Not to mention, we're starting to top charts now. So for example, South Korea loves us. We're in top 10 of entrepreneurship all the time. So all you South Koreans, man, thank you. Philippines loves us. India, come on. I'm not even in the top 20 yet. What's going on with that? All right. But we're climbing up in all these markets. That's just funny. I would have never thought. Now, how do I know all this? Go create a free account at Chartable, Chartable, chartable.com. It's really cool. Free account, put in any podcast. Doesn't have to even be mine or yours. Any podcast, and you can see all their rankings. So all these random categories we're starting to show. By the way, Romania loves us. These are some of the markets where I'm like, wow, that's kind of neat. Like, imagine that. I'm starting to get a voice internationally thanks to this podcast. That is so cool. You turn to YouTube, it's even crazier. All over the place. Now, on YouTube, India, you love us. So thank you. Like, all over it, right? So here's why I love this podcast, going out internationally, hitting all these different demographics. Because when we run ads, we don't target these countries. Why do we not target them? Because the ROI isn't there. And I've always felt like that sucks. I want to reach these markets. I want to teach, and I want to have a voice to these markets, and I want to give them the ability to move their life to the next level. I want to serve those entrepreneurs too, but obviously I can't pay for ads if I'm going to lose money, and then I'll go broke. So, that's why at Lurn.com we have so many free courses, because I want to be able to serve markets that even if you can't afford our higher price courses, and by the way, our prices are coming down month over month over month on purpose. I know that there's still those other marketers out there charging thousands of dollars. We want to serve the markets that can't afford that. But how do I reach these markets if I can't afford to spend money reaching them? Podcast. It's amazing, right? This thing is getting out there and it's becoming a wildfire on its own. We do have it in good source that apparently Gary V recommended the podcast. We never found it, but we found someone who said he did. And it's just been awesome, right? We've had Robert Kiyosaki on. We've had some amazing guests. It's been such a journey. Here is how I was able to get myself to commit. Now, you might be thinking 100 episodes. For a lot of people, that's a big milestone. 100, that takes a lot of work. The biggest problem with organic and content marketing, which is what podcast fits into, is that we'll decide, we get really excited. Yeah, I'm going to launch a blog. That's it. I'm going to launch my Facebook page. I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to post like crazy. I'm going to amazing content. And we do the first one, the second one, the third one. By the fourth one, like life gets in the way. The fifth one, it's like one team's pushing us like, hey, we need revenue. We need this. And you run off to do different things. I have never in my life ever been consistent on in 16 plus years of trying. I don't know how many blogs I've launched. I don't know how many times I've relaunched my Facebook page. I don't know how many times I've committed to Instagram. Once I even committed to Snapchat. Now I don't even know how to get in. I don't even know how to log into that. Is Snapchat still a thing, guys? Yeah. I'm not doing it. I refuse. Unless you guys want to take the podcast there, but I'm not going. So, how many times have I started this and I quit within days? For some reason, the podcast became an infatuation. I'm obsessed with this podcast. I absolutely love doing it. Here was the one secret, the one trick, the one way I fell in love with this podcast. And that was last year in 2018, about halfway through the year. Things have been so busy in the company and in my life, I was getting a little disappointed that I was not learning anymore. I used to read very aggressively. I used to take courses very aggressively. I used to attend seminars and workshops and masterminds, and just the business has gotten to the point, and my personal life has gotten to the point where I just didn't have time for all of that. So I said, let me hack this. If I create a podcast that's all around me learning, completely selfish to my needs, my desires, my wishes, and I let you listen in, that way I will be hungry to do these episodes, because when I get a guest on, I know I will learn, right? Like last week, we released the episode with Chester Santos. And all of a sudden, I'm remembering things better. As a matter of fact, I want to do a shout out to Nathaniel. And so if Maria and Greg are watching, their son, I think he's 3, 4, 5, he's less than 5. He listened to it and he was reciting back the words that are said in the episode. So it's so cool for me to learn how to improve my memory, but in the process, you got a chance to listen and learn as well. And by me wanting to learn, I ask better questions, right? So it's not just a fluffy, let's talk blah, blah, blah. Like there's a ton of that. That was how. So let me ask you a question. If you're trying to get more consistent or launch a podcast or any type of content, how can you make that content serve you? For a minute, let me change the game. Stop trying to serve other people, right? Serve yourself. How can you serve yourself? And in what's funny is in serving yourself, you'll end up serving other people. But when your goal is to serve other people only, you tend to want to see something come back to you. So if I'm giving all the time, I want back, right? Otherwise I lose motivation. So it's hard with organic strategies you have to give. It'll take months, if not years, for you to make some money out of it. So I don't know. People ask me, how much does your podcast make you? The heck if I have no freaking idea. I can't even track it. But I can tell you this, how many of you listen to it? How does that impact psychologically your thought process of me? How does that impact your value that I bring to you? So when I do eventually at some point ask you for money, although you may read a sales page or see a Facebook ad, click to the page and buy so that campaign gets the credit, what if it was the fact that you'd listened to 17 episodes of mine and liked me because of the content I gave you in those episodes that actually led you to buy? I can't track that, right? But I can tell you this, it's been tremendous, it's been amazing. So this is one tip I wanted to give you, is that serve yourself and you will find that you serve others way better. So when we started this podcast, in December, our first few episodes were audio only because it was easier for me. I still say audio is much easier. I would be able to get out an episode a day. We could do 7 episodes a week if I had to do audio only, because I grab a mic, I walk around, and I talk my mind. But there are 2 problems with that, okay? And I recognized this early right on. 1, audio only, walking around and making it convenient for myself, or driving a car and recording while I'm driving. Very convenient to put out content. But I'm not learning anything from that. I'm teaching, so it's give. So I'm not serving my own internal selfish desire, which is going to eventually make me quit. Second big fallback was something inside of me said, you got to do this on video. Now, the challenge with adding video is you can't just 10:30 at night, I get inspired, I walk down to my office and I record an episode. No, I got to get the set ready, get the team involved. There's got to be people here. There's got to be lighting. There's got to schedule. If you have a guest, you have to coordinate with them. And there's all this tech involved in getting them. And it's a lot of work. But I knew within the first 3 or 4 or 5 episodes, and then the team started pushing too, because we were starting our YouTube channel up. So the team was like, they had their selfish desire, right? They needed more content for YouTube. So they said, please do this on video. So glad I did, because 9 months later, 58% of our consumption comes from YouTube. 58%. So made it harder? Yes. Does it mean I make less episodes? Yes. Does it mean I love the podcast that much more and it markets that much better? Heck yes. Totally worth it. I will not ever do an episode now without being on video. So we started at 1 episode and it was fun, and we used it as part of a product launch. So when we launched the episode, I made it part of a product launch we were doing so that it would kind of help the product launch, and then there would be some selfish reason to promote it more to our email list. And it did all right. Like, it was kind of disappointing. Our first email, I'm used to getting thousands of clicks. I can do emails where I get like 7,000, 8,000 clicks. Our first episode, we had like 5, 6, 7, 800 downloads. And I'm sitting there like, what? Like, this sucks, you know? And this is the trap of content marketing, especially on podcasts. You work all hard and you put an episode out, and you know, I'm blessed to have gotten 6, 7, 800 or 1,000. That was because I had an email list. When you put your podcast out and you don't have a big following, you're going to get like 7, of which 2 are going to be your mom and dad. So it's kind of discouraging to do that. But anyways, I decided, no, I've made a commitment. I'm going through with this. And slowly, so 3 or 4 episodes in, I realized I kind of like it, but I'm not in love with it. I said, what's it going to take for me to fall in love with it? Now, at that time, I was in India. And I was at a hotel, and one of my best friends was visiting me. His name is Ritaban. Go back, you'll actually see the episode. And I just decided, so he was growing his YouTube channel. And didn't I tell you, like, my team was just getting ready to start YouTube channel, like the growth of it. So I was like, I really want to talk to Rito about how to do his YouTube. Like, he's growing at hundreds of subscribers a day. So all of a sudden the idea comes to me, and I'm like, wait, maybe I can film this. This could become an episode. Like, people can listen in. I got nothing to hide. And as I'm asking questions, others. So I say, he's in the hotel. I'm like, Rito, can you do this? And he's like, sure. So if you go back and listen to the episode, it's episode 3, 4, 5, 6, one of the early ones. It's how to make $30,000 a month from YouTube. You can actually hear me sliding the mic to him when he answers and sliding it back to me. Like, this is where we started. Okay? This is not where we started the podcast. Like, we got all kinds of great expensive equipment now. But when we started, it was, you could hear. And so, right? But it was awesome. And quickly I saw something from the audience. I released that episode, and guess what? Of all of the bicker-backer I was doing, became the most popular episode. So I thought, people like that, huh? Let's do another one. And then by that point, video, we had to be doing video. And I had the brilliant idea of, we have so many TVs in the studio, like, let's bring the person up on TV. And then it's like, I'm actually interviewing them. And that worked out well. And as we start to do more of these, I'm like, wait, I've been really wanting to talk to this person. I wonder if he would agree or she would agree. And when I reach out to them with the idea of a podcast, I don't know what it is. A lot of my friends are just, yes, right? I'm like, cool. So you know how many things we've been implementing? I love doing this podcast because I learned so much. My mind is blown all the time. I have way too many opportunities. Like, I wish we had unlimited budget and I could just swim this place with a marketing team and give each one an episode. That's what I would do. It's like to hire a person and say, this episode, the next year, this is all you do. You're going to do this strategy that's talked about in this episode. That's how much I love every single one of them. And so we started to roll it out. So what happened then is we started doing the guest interviews. But then I start hearing from the audience. You got to listen to your audience. They're like, oh, well, we really like the ones where you talk, Anik. We want to know what's going on in your life and what you're up to and what you're doing. I'm like, okay, you like those too, huh? All right, well, let's move the guest interviews to Wednesday. And then, Monday, I'll do like little 10, 20-minute rants about what's going on in my life and what I'm learning and lessons learned. And I actually really enjoy doing those because it allows me, selfish, to reflect on my business. And I'll kind of have my own aha moments. And I've told the team before, I actually like to go back and listen to my own episodes sometimes. Because I'll listen, I'm like, wow, that was pretty smart. Like, I'm learning from myself. That's kind of cool. So then all of a sudden we went from 1 episode a week to 2 a week, right? That took a few weeks before we got there. And we saw the growth rate of the podcast started to grow faster. So I'm like, that's interesting, because the more you put out, like, it's more nets, right? So every episode's like a little net you put out into the ocean. So obviously the more nets you have, the more fish you'll catch. That's like common sense, I guess. So we went on 2 episodes a week for a long time, and it is hard. Guys, listen, I got so much going on that, I have had many a days where, the episode has to release in 12 hours and the team's like, hello, we need an episode from you. And then they work feverishly around the clock to take what I recorded, spin it out and get it ready. So we got to 2 a week and it was growing, and there's regular growth. And then we start having marketing ideas, and I'll go over the marketing ideas because I'm going to share with you 5 growth hacks I did, and then the team's going to come on. So yes, by the way, this will be a longer episode. Just deal with it. It doesn't exist anywhere. The stuff we teach you here, it doesn't exist. Go ahead, Google it. You're not going to find it. So I want to tell my story, and you get to listen to it. So then we, where was I? All right. So then we went to 2, and it was tough. But I got a rhythm going, and I was like, the guest interviews is what I love the most. Now, here's another thing I learned. So this might help you if you're doing podcasts. I do not enjoy getting months ahead on the episodes. I don't like it. I don't like even getting too many weeks ahead. I like to be in the moment. It makes me enjoy the podcast more. It makes me learn more. It makes me choose better topics. So I don't want to be more than 2-3 weeks out, because right now I don't want to book guests up that far in advance. I want to be able to pick whatever the heck is interesting me right now and then go find the guest and book them. And then that way I know within the next couple of weeks, I'll learn on that topic. So we went to 2 weeks. We did that for a while. The podcast grew. I mean, I think it would grow. And so Joe, you tell you about, 1-2% a week, couple percent points a week. Yeah. That wasn't like ridiculous, but that's, accumulatively, guys, look, that's where growth of a podcast, it's not linear. It's got this, like, there's a tipping point somewhere where it's just freaking growth starts. And we're starting to see that tipping point now. We're starting to see kind of the rapid growth pace picking up. So went to 2, it's tough, growing, it's good. I like it, but the only reason I continued to do it was because I enjoyed the interviews for me. I would have quit this thing because it was too much work. Then, because I'm in love with it, so I keep doing it. Then one day, I'm watching the first debate, I believe, the Democratic debate, and I'm like shouting at the television, and I'm like really teed off, and I'm ranting. This is at my house, and my wife's just staring at me like, what is wrong with you? And I'm just ranting, and I have a lot of opinions and a lot of thoughts, and they're trapped inside, and I'm like, yeah, people need to know this. And she looks at me, and she goes, why don't you just start talking about this on your podcast? And I'm like, what? No, whoa, that would cross lines. And so all of a sudden I'm like, I do have a Friday. And I was like, Freedom Friday. And as soon as it came out of my mouth, I'm like, Freedom Friday. Freedom Friday, that's what we're going to do. So I filmed my first episode, and guess what? People love it. So we were actually debating, should I do a separate podcast or should I shove it in the same podcast? So what I've decided to do is I'm going to have like multiple shows in the same podcast. So the Fighting Entrepreneur is like a TV channel, and then there will be like multiple shows in it. So Freedom Friday, now it's become a thing. You can actually you see people quoting on Freedom Friday or whatever, and I enjoy it. I love Freedom Fridays just because it's an opportunity for me to rant about whatever the heck I'm thinking about and, upset a lot of people, which is kind of cool sometimes. So no problem with that. So that was the story. That's how we got to 3 episodes a week. And people ask me, are you going to do more? Sure. I mean, look, I like this thing to be organic. So I want it to keep going as it's going. And as I said that, I could see the team right now. There are like more episodes. So guys, don't worry. We'll build the team out. There will be more people to help. But yeah, so I just love letting this thing be its own little, live thing that's just growing. And I go with it. I don't want to control it. I go with it. I just surf wherever you take it. And the content pieces I choose. That's me. That's like, if it's not serving me, I'll stop doing the podcast. So let's do this. Before we bring the team on, I want to go and talk to you about 5 growth hacking techniques that we used in this podcast. Now, I'm not going to share some of the most golden nugget ones because I wanted to save that for the team. But number 1, I already talked about this. Video. Do friggin' video. It's so silly not to. Even if you're recording yourself talking on a freaking webcam, just upload it to different places. If nothing else, it's just make it raw, make it ugly. Don't have to worry about lighting. It doesn't have to be beautiful like this in a studio, but it's just video. You can pop it up on all your social media platforms. You can pop it up on YouTube. If all it does, it gets you an extra 50 views or 100 views, why isn't that worth it? It's worth it. It's getting the word out, more shares, more comments, more likes, more blah, just everything. So we're going to get deeper into that with the team. They're going to talk more specifically about that. But tip number 1, you have to do video. Tip number 2, all right, I call this springboarding, okay? Springboarding, so I call it using a springboard event. What do I mean by that? I used webinars. So I had this idea. We were doing a webinar once. So I like to mesh the podcast in with my business. The more I blend it into my business, the easier it is for me to market it. So we had this big webinar happening. It was in February of this year, 2019, February or March, one of those months. And we have full stack. We were expecting 1,000+ people, like the whole 9 yards. So I decided to get on 30 minutes early and I promote my podcast. And I do fun giveaways like, hey, I'm going to pick a $100 winner if you subscribe to the podcast, and we're just sitting on there for 30 minutes before the webinar, which I do anyways, but I just use that time to promote the podcast. We had like hundreds of people on. It peaked out at full max 1,000 people on. And man, my podcast, I'm telling you, Unchartable, it went from like like that. Now, I know not everyone can do this. So let me give you some ideas on how you could create a springboard event. Instead of doing episodes and just doing them like crazy, why don't you pick one episode where maybe you're interviewing someone that has a following, or maybe you're picking a very controversial topic and launch it. So instead of just releasing it, start driving hype about it 2-3 weeks ahead. And when you launch it, do it as a live. All right. So that you've developed all that hype, and at one time you get everybody on at one point and you control the narrative, and then you use that as a springboard. So at that time you communicate with everybody and you get them at one time to go subscribe, to leave reviews, and to do all that fun stuff so that you can take a bump up really quickly. This has helped. We've done multiple of these, and it really has helped build our following and build our subscriber base. So figure out how you can springboard. How can you create little launches to launch your podcast again and again and again and again? We're doing it. I'm working on a massive springboard campaign. I ain't telling you about it because it's too awesome, and it will be not until 2020. But I think this one campaign, I'm calling it right now, it's going to take us to the top 10 on some of the most competitive charts. Let's see where we'll end up. All right. Number 3, I borrow this right from Dan Lok. I want to give credit to it where it belongs. Dan Lok, thank you for this. Rule of 100. No matter what you do not even start a podcast unless you know you're going to do 100 episodes. Do not start a YouTube channel unless you're going to do 100 videos. Do not start a Facebook page unless you're going to do 100 posts. Don't start a Facebook group unless you have 100 things planned for it. That, for us, 100 took 9 months. For you, it could take 2 years. It could take 2 months. I have no idea. But Dan Lok mentions it in our podcast. Where did I learn this, by the way? The rule of 100. I learned it right on my podcast as I'm interviewing Dan Lok. And what he says is so applicable. You got to do 100 pieces. Somewhere in that 100, you're going to start to take off. We have seen rapid growth, inflation, like our pace of growth has taken off right around the time that we did like episode 90, 92, 93. Is that right, Stuart? Like it was about 10 episodes ago. So as we approached 100, we're starting to see like a growth, like you could see it. Go to chartable.com. You could see the charts and you can actually see how they're starting to pick up. And our rankings are starting to come in for all these crazy categories all over the world. So that's rule number 3. You got to have 100. Number 4, social media. As much as you can. Now, again, that's all I'm going to leave. The rest of it's for the team. They'll give you the specifics, but I'm talking Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I don't know if we do Twitter, but if we don't, we should do Twitter. Stories. So even on Facebook, you could do posts and stories. I don't think we've even started doing stories yet on Facebook, have we?
Not Facebook.
Yeah. So we have on Instagram. See, there's still room for us to grow too. So stories on Instagram, Facebook, personal Facebook profile. There are so many places. YouTube itself. Oh man, we're going to talk about it in a few minutes here when the team comes on. And then number 5, again, I told you, right? Growth hacking. I'm not giving the golden nuggets away. I'm saving those for the team. But number 5, more episodes. Can you challenge yourself not to do an episode a week, but do 2? Now, obviously, that's going to inflate the number of downloads because you'll have the same person listen to 2 episodes, but that's not the only way it grows. We have seen this in the company. Look, more nets in the water, okay? Every episode, especially if you're doing social media, because that's different topics, different guests, different points, and you'll catch different types of people at different times. Based on Facebook's algorithm, they're not showing your post to the same people every time. So if you're posting more regularly, more episodes, you're being shown to different parts of Facebook and different parts of Instagram at different times. So you're gathering more people. That's more nets. And so we have seen the more episodes we do, faster we start to grow, more audience we're bringing in. It's been pretty powerful. All right. So here's what we're going to do. All right. We're going to take a quick break here. We're just going to hear a quick little message from one of our team members. Now, before I do this, I want to do a shout out because I should have started with this and I feel bad that I didn't. I just want to shout out to the whole Lurn team. I want to do a shout out for every team member that's about to come on. And one of our team members, he's refused to come on camera. His name is Sean. So Sean, a shout out to you right now, but maybe one of these days we'll get you on camera. But without these guys, there's just no chance I could do this podcast. And we have had some of the most brilliant guests. So if you've already been a guest on The Fighting Entrepreneur, thank you so much. All right. So let's take a minute here to hear from one of our team members. And then when you come back, the rest of the team will be here and we'll go over the golden nuggets of how to growth hack your podcast.
Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Sean. I'm part of the Lurn social media team. I'm the guy who did not want to be on video for the interview. Funny thing is, this Penworthy got me to do this commercial break. So while I'm at it, I'm going to tell you to go to onicpodcast.com. Of course, that's where you get all the podcast episodes. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And last thing, if you're not a member, go to Lurn.com. That's Lurn.com and become a member right now. We have over 100 courses, some free, some paid. They're all worth it, believe me. And now back to the episode.
And we're back, and we've got these good-looking gentlemen here who are a part of what has been the moving force behind The Fighting Entrepreneur. We have one more person, so remember I gave a shout out to Sean. He's behind the cameras, but he's been such an amazing resource and help for us growing the video side of our podcast. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you for
All right,
us.
yeah, and thank you for everything you do for this podcast. So we're going to get right to it. Stuart, you're going to drop some golden nuggets. How can people growth hack, grow their and market their podcast?
All right, let's keep it the most basic and simple, right? So you said before, you need to have it on video, right? So within your podcast, it could be anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. But as we are posting on YouTube and Instagram, these full episodes, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I realized that your podcast is really interesting because like within each interview or topic, you have really about 4 or 7 to even 9 different rounds. And each round is like a different topic. Yeah. And each topic is basically its own headline that has a completely different meaning and story to it. Yeah. So in order to be more consistent on YouTube and make sure we don't fall off and don't miss that 1-a-day mark, we decided to like just start cutting them up in sections. So each round was basically going to be released as its own video. So what really dawned me for the first time was the interview with Tom Penworthy, the taxes. One of the strongest episodes.
Wheelwright.
Tom Wheelwright, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He was.
Took 2 guests and merged.
I did. That was one of my favorite podcasts because I learned so much. I wish I heard that podcast like 5 years ago. But I realized that when that video went out, a lot of people were kind of falling off in retention around the introduction part within like 3 or 4 minutes. And I realized there's so many golden nuggets that people were missing. The best way to get those nuggets shown to people was to divide it up and then release it as its own.
Okay, so pause real quick because I want to give everyone some background reference here. So you heard me talk about this earlier that we didn't just start the podcast, we wanted to start the YouTube channel. And it was almost around the same time that we started, aggressively wanting to grow both. And so with YouTube, the challenge given to the team was 1 video a day, right? Has to be. Now, I have not had the time to shoot a unique video for YouTube every day. I would love to get to that, and I have committed to them that I will one day, but they have been so resourceful, pulling from old videos and all the content. I mean, I don't know how many thousands of hours of content I've done. So what you're saying is you took the same podcast. So like, let's say the interview I do on Wednesday, the full interview releases on Wednesday on YouTube as one file. But then what you do is you find ways to take chunks out and release them at random times throughout weeks and months post the interview's been posted. But you'll post one chunk of it as a separate video with a different title and a different thing. But that video still has onikpodcast.com in the bottom footer. It's still got the Fighting Entrepreneur logo there. It's still promoting the podcast, but it's its own unique content.
It is. We gave it its own unique introduction, so we made it shown that it's easily a highlight video. Okay. It's not like its own little podcast. This is pulled from another video that was inside YouTube itself.
So you're repurposing one piece of content, creating multiple pieces of content out, and that way you're putting more nets out on YouTube.
Yeah, it makes it more easier to search because like with YouTube, you're limited on like 500 tags, right?
Yeah.
Or characters for the tag. So this allows us to really expand like us to be found on
that's awesome.
The topics.
All right, so that's a YouTube growth hack there for the podcast.
Yeah, and to continue on, I'm going to say this on behalf of Sean because Sean really picked this up, was to really get the YouTube engaged was also to pin and engage viewers on side of the YouTube channel. So we would pin a comment typed by Sean being like, hey, what was the biggest takeaway from this episode? Post it in the replies below. And just by enticing them to respond and engage, help the viewership on our YouTube channel.
Really? So, okay, so there you go. Listen, we told you we're going to give you very specific, tactical, actionable advice. So when you post your video on YouTube of your podcast, what you're saying is immediately go post a comment underneath it, asking for people to engage with what they learn, pin it so it always stays at the top, and that people are actually responding to that.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
And because of the increased comments, that sends positive feedback to YouTube, and they're more likely to syndicate your video far more.
Exactly. And another test way. So we are trying to grow the Instagram, but it's not at the same level as our YouTube channel, obviously. So with the rounds, dividing it up into different videos, I was releasing it kind of in Instagram first, just to see if like the headlines and the copy works. Because like with Instagram, it's like instant, whether you know if the video is going to be up or down within the first 24 hours,
Yeah.
you know it's going to be a good headline, or it was something about that video that made it really work.
Yeah.
So if I tested out with Instagram first, and based on how Instagram reacts to it, then I know it's a good YouTube final video.
So I want you guys to take away, this is why it takes, like, as like a joke I have, it takes a village for a great podcast, right? Because you have to be pretty systematic and methodical if you want to grow the way we did. Now, look, if you just want to have a podcast, you just want to put it out there, have fun with it, go for it. But if you want a growth hack and you want to have 425,000 listens in 9 months, then you got to do stuff like this where you test little things. So was that your third tip, Instagram?
Well, not really.
Okay.
My third tip, I guess, would be think about, all right, so if you're trying to hack your podcast growth, think about the best kind of user or audience to be on this bandwagon of yours. Because, so the best audience that would hijack or hack growth your podcast station is current podcast listeners. Because it's tough enough, like those that don't listen to podcasts, to convert them to start listening to this kind of platform, and then having them subscribe to your position. So what you want to do is kind of create this ease for current podcast listeners or habitual podcast listeners to listen to your stations. Because I feel like the iTunes, Spotify, all these platforms and Overcast and Stitcher, all these platforms that are promoting these podcast services, I feel like they're in the same stage as Facebook like 10 years ago, when they were just like saying, hey, get all your people, send your audiences to me, and it's free. I'll give you all the reach you want. And then like a couple years ago, they're like made it like, all right, if you want to reach out to your audiences, now you have to pay.
Okay.
So, but these podcast stations are in that stage where like they just want the users.
But how do I do that? Like how do I? So iTunes gets subscribers. YouTube obviously have subscribers. On all of these, you can subscribe to the podcast. But how do I serve an existing audience more than trying to attract a new audience?
So, well, there's two ones. Going back to, if they can't get subscribed, because there's some podcast stations where you can't subscribe, like Spotify, I don't believe you can subscribe to it.
Okay.
What you can do is have them subscribe to external factors. So have them subscribe to via email, have them subscribe via ManyChat. Even on the Instagram, what I used to do, and this is going to be part of my point 3, is I would release the episode for Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday it's a new episode. But then every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, I would replace the link in the bio with the individual podcast episodes. When they see the episode that they like, they click on the bio, they go on the link to go to the website.
One second, slow down. You got too many golden nuggets. You're a
I'm
bullet train
jumping,
moving
I'm
ahead.
jumping.
So we're gonna pull it back here
All
one
right.
sec, okay? So tip number 3, I'm gonna regroup now. Let's go back
All
to
right,
tip number 1 because you have a lot you're dropping. Tip number 1 was splitting up a podcast episode, the video side of it, into multiple separate little golden nuggets that you can release at separate times after the main episode is released. So now you have more nets out there in the YouTube world or in any social media platform world. Tip number 2 was from Sean, and that was when you post a video, immediately go post a comment under it and pin it and ask people to engage with what they learned from the video. That sends positive feedback to YouTube. You get farther syndication of your video. This is for all your YouTube videos. Tip number 3, which I know we've used and we love, so you'll listen to my podcast. I always say, go to onikpodcast.com. Go to onikpodcast.com. I say it again and again and again. I came up with a simple URL that's just easy to say. And at the very top, go ahead right now, go to onikpodcast.com. What's at the top? It's a place to subscribe, name and email. And religiously, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, when we release an episode, we send an email. And so we are alerting, and where I got a hold of this, right, was my wife. She subscribes to a couple of YouTube channels, and she is like, bam, about watching. Like, it comes out. And I asked her once, I'm like, how do you even know? Like, you're busy in your life and you'll stop what you're doing and run to the TV to watch the episode of this person she follows. And she's like, I get an email. And so I was like, okay, wow, people actually really, they follow. And ManyChat. We started doing this on ManyChat. So we'll send out ManyChat blasts as well. So we're using Facebook's messaging platform. So imagine this, right? We are in front of you. When we get an episode out, we're like, hey, episode is out. And it does make an impact. Because on all of these platforms, the faster you can get absorption early, it helps springboard that episode further because it sends positive feedback to those platforms. Now, number 4, you said on Instagram, you play with the bio link. So on Instagram, you have a part, right? That you have your bio and you can put a link in there. You actively change that link and tailor it to the episode.
Well, I used to.
Okay.
All right, so here's going back to my why I brought up. All right, so the best audience is those that already listen to podcasts, right? Because people are habitual. They go to a certain station every morning or on the commute to work, and they go to this like one Spotify or one iTunes app, and they listen to your content there. So what I realized what I was doing was with the Instagram, for example. I was having them kind of jump in so many hoops just to get to the platform to listen to what they will actually want, unless they like stopped through the sequence and then just manually searched in themselves. Because like so for the bio link, they would go for they would listen to the podcast, listen to the post on Instagram, then go to the bio, click the bio link, then go to the website, click on the episode inside the website, and then inside the website episode, it breaks down all the information. Plus,
So
then
there's
they
like
finally
six
get
places to click before you get to the episode.
exactly right. So what I did is we created a bridge page right on the Instagram bio. So as soon as they click on the bio, it just brings up one page, and they just press one button and goes straight to the platform of their choosing, and they can listen to all the episodes there.
So if you want to see an example of this, go on Instagram, follow me. It's at Anik, A-N-I-K, and then look at my bio link.
Yeah.
And when you click it, you'll see what a bridge page looks like. And that was something you came to me with just a few weeks ago. So this is a recent thing that we did. And we did see, I mean, instantly, I don't know if it's attributed to that or what. It's hard to track with podcasts, but we've seen, like I told you, the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks is when we started to see some major growth going on.
Yeah, and a lot of it, they just didn't realize like how where they could find us on these platforms. They didn't know that we existed on Spotify. And the reason why we kind of jumped up like 10, 15% in the past couple of weeks is because our Spotify downloads have been jumping up, increased dramatically from that.
That is very true. Spotify came out of the blue, so I don't even know what Spotify is. Don't listen to it, but send me some love. So thanks, Spotify. Anything else?
I mean, so one thing that we were doing with the website is we had individual images for each podcast.
Yeah.
So with Spreaker, which is what we use that you recommended, and you can attribute a unique image to each podcast episode.
So let's pause real quick, because we've said Spreaker a few times. I just want to explain to everybody Spreaker. I still don't know what it is, but it's where I check all my stats. So if you go to Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com, Joe set it up. Yeah. It just brings everything into one place, but apparently it can do other crap too. So that's
Spreaker
cool.
is a host site for iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, and like 50 other ones.
Okay.
So when you're wanting to start a podcast, you want to sign up for either Spreaker, there's Libsyn is another one, Podbean, there's a few of them.
Okay.
But you sign up and you put all your audio there, and basically what Spreaker does is it makes an RSS feed, I won't get into it, but it makes a feed that it sends to iTunes and Spotify and everything that automatically updates.
My eyes just like glassed
so that
over.
when you put a new episode up, you don't have to manually go into iTunes, manually go into Spotify. It'll just do it all for you.
It's all in one place. It does the tagging for you.
All I caught was Spreaker, do it all for you.
That's all you gotta do. Like, what is he honestly, they should have that as their motto.
All right, so anyway, sorry. So that now that we know what Spreaker is, you were saying something about
so
how
with
you...
Spreaker, you can add a unique image for each podcast episode, which I think really helps on the Spotify end, because I noticed instantly that it just automatically updated all the images, which made our I think podcast episodes more clickable, because each one had a unique image that kind of contributed to the topic of...
So Spreaker, unique image per podcast. Now, guys, this is a lot of work. As you'll hear, we're not even done yet.
I just want to add something to it. Like, if anybody is doing a podcast, and especially if you're doing a video podcast, you might as well shoot some images at the very same time.
Okay.
So you can use those images to use it for your...
So now you got to have videographers, photographers, audio specialists, technical experts. I mean, look, this is what we do. You wanted to know how we got it. I never said it's easy. I started by saying the podcast is probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but I love it, and I dream of the day that we're going to be getting 1 million downloads a week, and imagine the kind of reach we'll have and the kind of influence we'll have and we'll be able to do and help people. So, you know, you don't have to do all of this stuff, but this is what we do to get to where we got. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that. Okay, I want to move on, and we'll come back if you have some other stuff, because I have some stuff that if you guys don't cover, I'm going to come back and talk about.
Sure.
But let's move to Purva.
Sure. So the very first thing I want to talk about is if somebody's starting a fresh podcast, like if they have not, got to their first episode, is they should release at least 3 podcasts on a launch day.
Okay.
So don't do one podcast, don't do one episode on a day, just do 3.
Okay.
So the audience can binge watch it, and then they're gonna wait for the more content from you now.
Got it.
So having a one episode actually kind of hurts, because let's say you do one episode and then you don't do another episode for like next 2-3 weeks. You're gonna lose the audience.
Well, not just that, but there's been a lot of, we didn't launch ours correctly. Once we were done with the launch, we realized that there's that whole, what was it?
Yeah, well, that was one of my tips. Basically, one of the things that iTunes doesn't tell you, but is true, is the first 8 weeks of your podcast, by the time it's on iTunes, to the last day of 8 weeks, you have 8 weeks to get on the new and noteworthy section, which is the very front page of iTunes.
Which we never hit. We never did because we didn't plan around it. So what the reason 3 podcasts on the same time is you get more downloads.
More downloads, right.
And you get that springboard. Look, I keep coming back. You got springboard yourself up, and that's one of the.
And you're giving more value to your audience.
Yeah, another important thing about that is something that I've seen a lot with a lot of podcasts, and one thing we saw before we started The Fighting Entrepreneur, and we wanted to make sure it didn't happen, is like what Porbach's saying, when we had 3 episodes as opposed to 1, people had more content. They could listen to 1, come back, know there's another one there to listen to again. But when you just launch a podcast with 1 episode and they listen to it and go, well, great, now I'm done. Then they gotta wait and they're just gonna leave.
Yeah.
But if you can give them enough that maybe they won't listen to all 3, maybe they'll just listen to 2, maybe they will listen to all 3. Well, they know that there's gonna be more.
What I'm still seeing consistently is the episodes I did like in December and January, which were episode 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 15, still getting listens.
Yeah.
Right. They're getting downloads. So one of the things that we're doing now is redoing the onicpodcast.com website. And I'm going to put thousands of dollars into getting a brand new, beautiful website done, CMS driven, searchable, taggable, and build a whole community around it. Because what that's going to do is it's going to increase the number of downloads I'm getting from my old episodes, and iTunes and all of them don't care. Download's a download, old or new. Yeah. It still springboards you up the chartable. So again, top 10. I'm coming. But yeah.
Right. So that's going to be number 1 tip, and it's very important for whoever's starting a new podcast. Second one I want to talk about is iTunes. So keywords. So a lot of time I see people, using their episode numbers, like, hey, episode 99, such and such. Don't do that.
Okay.
Actually use a keyword or use a guest name. That's going to give you more ranking on iTunes itself.
Well, not only that, iTunes actually came out and said they really don't like when people use the episode number in the name. Oh. They don't like when you say episode 1 when it's episode 1. They don't want the episode title.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I was actually wondering why we don't do that, because a lot of episodes do, and we don't. We put it in the image.
We don't put it.
We put it in the image, but we never put it in the title.
I think once you get to a certain point in your audience, and people are going to come back anyways, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But when you're first starting, they don't like recommending things that are just episode 1 title, episode 2 title.
Because it's new and it's got, okay, wow, interesting. Okay, so in the iTunes, put keywords or guest name.
Right, so that pretty much hurts your ranking within the iTunes.
Yeah,
and then
okay, that's huge.
Be able to get up there. Like even if you had like 200, 300 episodes, but you're starting with episode, you're not going to get up there in the top 100.
Awesome. All right.
Number 3 is for the SEO, for the website.
Okay.
And like you mentioned on the podcast that having the video is the most important thing for the SEO. Now what the Google does, let's say you have a website, let's say you have a podcast website and you only embed your audio podcast on your website. There is no way for Google to see it, what's on the audio podcast.
Yeah.
So it's important for you to have a video, and if you have a video, it's gonna give you 50 times more ranking.
So when we have the website, like we have onicpodcast.com, we have those episode URLs, we embed audio and we embed the YouTube video now.
Which helps us.
The video didn't come in there until only a few months ago. We weren't embedding the video, now we do. So what you're saying is Google likes that and knows better what's on that page, and that can rank the page better.
Right. Not only that, something I found out recently, that if you do you know how we do the subtitles at the bottom for the entire episode? If somehow you can include that on your page, that will be very helpful.
So put
transcripts on there.
The transcript.
Yeah, I heard that the other day too.
Transcripts
and
on
it's
the
something,
actual podcast
right,
page.
It's something we have not tried,
but
I would love to try it and see if it gives us any help in terms of SEO.
Right. I'm putting a square around this.
Right.
Did you just commit to trying this now?
Yeah. We tried.
I got it on record.
We actually tried transcripts really early on, and they did help a lot. But they took a ton of work because podcasts are long, and you have to go through and like edit and make sure that they're all correct. I think that's why we stopped. But we should
bigger
do
team,
it
more
again.
work, more growth. Let's do it. All right, you guys completely got away without. I mean, you knew the oath, by the way.
Oh my gosh!
We'll come back to the oath.
Here comes your favorite part: copywriting.
Yeah, it made it to this episode too.
Woo! So you should have a unique copy for each one of your episodes.
Yes.
And that's gonna help you.
I gotta tell you guys, we gotta improve our copy for these episodes. I've
Yeah.
kind of been seeing some one-liners just pop in there. This episode is about blah, and I'm like, but
That's my favorite when they retitle it basically in the description. Like it's like how to build a car in the descriptions. This is how to build a car. This episode's about how to build a car.
So this is an area we will definitely improve as we build out our copy team too. Because at Lurn, if there's one thing we need more of is great copywriters. Do not apply if you're just a copywriter. I want great copywriters only. But
And then the website will be a good thing for your social proof. So now that people are going on there and you exist, and they just give you more value to your podcast. And
I think that's been a huge thing. There's a lot of podcasts out there that I don't even have a website. Anikpodcast.com sucks. It is completely manual. It's not CMS driven. It's not sexy. It's not sexy. I don't like it, but it exists. It is something, right? For me to find my own damn episodes, you know how I do it? I go to the website because they're all listed there. I hit Control F and I type a word in. Like, come on, man. In today's day and age, we get to have a better website than that. But at least it's there. How many podcasts do I listen to that don't even have a website, that don't start with saying, go to blah, blah, blah.com?
Yeah.
And we do.
Well, and a thing to that is something I heard Gary Vee say before we even started this podcast. I heard it a while ago. He was like, why? I mean, to Stuart's credit, I think how he's handling social media and sending, or iTunes and Spotify, everything is the right way to go for current listeners. But Gary said something early on. He was like, why send anyone anywhere else than your website? Because it's your website. And you want people to go explore and hopefully buy something from you.
Yeah.
So like people that don't have their podcast on their site are losing a huge opportunity to get actual paying customers.
Because the podcast is still generally new. It kind of made mainstream the past couple of years, so not everybody's on the podcast bandwagon yet. They don't understand what it's all about. So that website is a good cushion.
Especially in other countries. I can tell you that US is the most advanced in its podcast usage. But like for example, in India, what's a podcast?
like no one knows about it.
They're not, but they'll catch on. India has always been about 4 to 7 years behind whatever trends are happening. Even YouTube now. YouTube is India's the number one user of YouTube. But if you go back 5 years ago, it was not, and now it's overtaken YouTube. So all these other countries, the market of podcasts, in my opinion, is still in its infancy, and it's gonna boom. And that's why I'm excited to be at I'm ahead of that, right?
Something that you did bring up earlier that I looked over with Porvak is something you forgot to check with your analytics is SoundCloud. And you are the top in India on SoundCloud. India loves SoundCloud.
This is what I was saying. There was one more. I was trying to tell you.
I told him it's SoundCloud, but SoundCloud, you're top in India. Not like top charts, but like India listens to you the most on SoundCloud.
Oh, man, screw you.
You still got like a lot of downloads on. You get a lot of listens on SoundCloud too.
And the last thing.
So SoundCloud those are not recorded on Spreaker.
They're not. SoundCloud it's almost like Spreaker's competitor. But
so I have more than 425,000 listens. And you choose to share this now.
Well, no one told me that you were going to do that. No one told me that you were going to do that.
So I have to refilm the whole podcast now. Because you sat right there, watched me prepping for the episode, and just kept mashing.
You don't want to just... You were like 15 minutes in. No,
he showed it to me on his phone while we were
I was like, did he remember this?
To his,
How many was it?
I think
it's probably another 5,000-10,000.
So we're good. You SoundCloud people, you don't matter. You're not part of our numbers. All right. Listen, that was very good.
I want to add last thing to it, if you
please.
don't mind.
Number 6.
And then it's basically mentioning your social media in your videos. That's very helpful. Before, like when we were doing our episodes, like up to the 60 or 70, we didn't do that. So we didn't say, hey, go to Instagram, go to Facebook.
I don't do that though.
No, we do it with actually in the lower thirds.
Okay.
So we actually write it.
Yeah, so we're putting people, so on the video feed, we're putting our social media tags on there and telling people like add Anik and whatever. Yeah. I want everyone listening to take away something. So far, everything we've talked about, except for maybe 1 or 2 tips, have been video based. Yeah. Which is in and of itself, you are talking to the people that grow this podcast, that are responsible for increasing its viewership and listenership, and they're only talking about video. And so that's a huge takeaway for anyone who's listening and you don't have a video yet. Okay, so...
But we're also videographers.
Oh, that's true too. They're all in the video team. Oh shoot, this might be completely stupid.
Well, I kind of was.
Yeah.
You are, yeah.
All right, we're going to go backwards. I, Stuart Nelson.
I, Stuart Nelson.
Do solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Do solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
And reveal all my podcast growth secrets.
And reveal all my podcast growth secrets.
Except for the ones that Anik tells me not to reveal.
Except for the ones that Anik tells me not to reveal.
Rolling back.
Exactly.
They'll be muted throughout the podcast.
We'll move on to Porvak. I, Porvak Patel.
I, Porvak Patel.
Do solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Do solemnly swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth.
And reveal all my podcast secrets except for the ones Anik tells me not to.
To reveal all my podcast secrets except the Anik
Except
Doesn't
one.
have
Yes.
except for
There you
Anik.
go. It's why. Because we're going to release a podcast course one of these days. So I'm just kidding, guys. I don't hold back anything. Joe is struggling over here.
My batteries just flew out. Don't worry, we're good.
For any of you watching this, there's no better way to introduce Joe to you than the scuffle.
I'm the guy yelling behind the camera most of the time. Yeah.
And at the end, I was going to actually encourage you to use his services to launch your podcast. Right. And so, Joe, everybody. Nah, he's fun. All right. I'll intro Joe to you in a minute, but Joe, you got to do the oath first.
Yes.
So I, Joe Ennis.
I, Joe Ennis.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
To tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
To tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
And to reveal all my podcast secrets.
And to reveal all my podcast secrets.
Except for the ones Anik tells me not to.
Maybe a few of the ones Anik tells me not to.
All right. So a little background on Joe. Joe was with Lurn when we actually launched the podcast. And so he helped us, I think, for the first 70, 80 episodes, 70, 20,
yeah,
60,
something like that.
Whatever.
80, something.
It was quite a few. And so, the thing with Joe, I'll tell you what was really, I've been wanting to do a podcast for years, but I told you, I suck at content. I don't commit to it. I won't do it. And so Joe joined the company and his role had nothing to do with the podcast. His role was all for something completely different. But every day, he wasn't telling me to do a podcast. He was just running around the office and podcast. It was like feeding podcasts in my head. And one day I was just like, I think I got to just start this podcast.
Yeah, I think I begged you a few times.
Yeah, and so it was like November of 2018. I went to him and I'm like, all I said was, hey, Joe, so I'm really thinking about starting my podcast. This guy sprang off his chair and was like, really? Let's do it. And I'm like, oh, wait, I was just thinking about starting a podcast. But he was way too excited and moving forward, buying equipment. I don't know what all he was doing. So I was like, I can't let Joe down. So we're going to start a podcast. And so that led to the podcast. And it's been an awesome journey. And now Joe is, off on his own and he's helping other people launch podcasts. So Joe, what are some of the things that because you were there early day and kind of saw the evolution of what we did for marketing?
Well, yeah, I kind of have three things. The first one actually has to do with the evolution.
Okay.
If you remember when we started, obviously you already talked about it a little bit. We went from 1 to 2 to 3 episodes, but there were some other things that we did in those 3 episodes that people might have forgotten about, but we changed a lot of things. We tried a lot of different tests and with a lot of different things. For example, we didn't always have Freedom Fridays. Sometimes we would have small recap episodes of you talking about the interviews. Sometimes we'd split the interviews into 2 and have one half of it released on Wednesday, one half released on Friday. Sometimes we just put out another one of you just ranting about something on Fridays. We changed a lot, but we did that, and I'm going to actually bring up an old episode, partly because of something that Dan Locke brought up to us, which is he watched when he does his YouTube channel, he watches every small thing that his audience reacts to. And we did that too. We would look at an episode, we'd see how well it did. Did people like it? Did people not like it? Was it because it released on Wednesday and not Friday? We took a deep dive on the actual content of what was involved. We even took a deep dive on our set. We changed our set. This is the 3rd set, I think, now. We examined very closely. A small detail that you might have not have noticed is before in the podcast, in the audio and video version, when you're watching it and you're wrapping up, back then you could hear the outro music kind of fade in, but we were seeing that when it started to fade in, people would start leaving because they knew that the episode was basically over. But as of recently, we have stopped that where you'll do your whole outro and then once you're done, bang, the intro music comes in so people know it's over. Even small things like that, we were looking at and pinpointing what was making people leave, what was making people stay, and what was making people rewatch, basically. So that was a big one. Just watching what your audience wants and seeing what they might not even know they want, but you should give them.
So I will say yes, watching what they want and what they were engaging with, but I kind of want to say that more selfishly speaking also, it wasn't in the end what I wanted to.
That's true.
So when we were doing the recap episodes, I just felt like this is a waste of space, in my opinion. It may have served the audience well, but I hated doing it because I would finish an episode and I just felt like then I'm puking out the same content as a review.
You'd be devaluing the original.
I felt like it, and then I really thought like people would just start waiting for the Fridays and get the snapshots, and then the guest doesn't get the heat that they're supposed to. So I didn't like that. And then we tried to do do this like 2-part episode where we would break, and I hated that because then I couldn't get that flow going with the guest. But Freedom Fridays was awesome because it allowed me to rant about something. What I also liked about Freedom Friday was it pulls me a little wider in market.
Yeah.
It allows me to get topics that are a little bit more mainstream to draw more people, new people into the
It's also
listenership.
controversial, yeah.
Which draws, exactly.
I think when we announced that we were going to get political, people were a little scared.
Yeah.
And I think we were a little too, but we were really excited.
Yeah. Well, so you really tip number one, what I take away was watch and optimize. And what I want to tell everybody is that we've definitely done this. The times that we release our episodes, we've seen we have a pretty big international following. So we release at a different unique time based on when we see the most viewership comes in. So we are looking at the data, like they are watching. And I mean, Stuart's got some crazy Excel files where he tracks all the specifics, viewerships, counts, time release, notes, things we're testing. And based off that, we make as scientific of decisions as humanly possible. So, all right, let's move on to number 2.
And one final quick thing, you can see all of that, the analytics for the audio version. Obviously, YouTube gives you a lot of stuff for like analytics for YouTube and the video versions, but you can see the audio versions. Spotify now has their own analytics page. iTunes Connect has their own analytics. Spreaker gives us a little bit of analytics, like where people are listening from and stuff. And then Chartable actually has analytics as well, as how many people are listening, how long they're listening, and stuff like that. So those would be the sites that I would recommend to go to for most of that analytics data. Number 2 is actually something that was more behind the scenes, and but actually had an effect on some episodes. And it kind of goes back to, people say like, ooh, interview guests and get their audience. But I kind of want to take it a little deeper than that. A lot of the guests we had, and I mean this in a very humble way, we were shooting up. Like, we were like, please be on our show. Like, you're really awesome, and we want to learn from you. You were like, I want to learn what you have to say. Selfishly, you would say that. But one thing that made those guests more willing to do it, and even in a few times recommend someone for us to interview, is how we treated them behind the scenes and before it started. When we would bring guests on, we would send them the questions we were going to ask beforehand. You would have a call with them, a pre-interview, so it wasn't the first time you were meeting. We sent them a typeform.com survey that actually had 3 questions that I still recommend to every host to ask their guest, which were, how should we introduce you so that you credit your guest, you're showing a sign of respect. How should we introduce you? Number 2, what do you not want to talk about? There are guests that don't want to talk about some stuff on their show. Maybe it's pricing, or maybe it's issues they've had, or whatever. Ask them what they don't want to talk about. And number 3 was, what do you want to promote and how can we help? And obviously this is more for like a host of an episode and not marketing, but what this does is it shows a great sign of respect for your guest, and it makes your guest want to help you promote your show and wants to send it out to their audience.
Let me interject there on one piece that I didn't talk about that most people don't know behind the scenes, what's going on with the podcast. Every guest, whether they are my best friend or not, every guest, pre-interview.
Yep.
All of them. I have a separate conversation with them, typically not more than 15 minutes, and I do this because I want to prepare for the interview. So I ask them, what will you talk about? Do you have any case studies? Is there a particular number you're going to focus on? Because I can write a better title that will get it more attention. I also get the guests thinking more about it. I get me thinking more about it, and then I write the outline. Now, I will say this. When I started initially, I would write all those questions out. I do not do that anymore. I actually started finding that the stress of having to write all the questions out was making me not look forward to the interviews. So what I did is I pulled back. I didn't want to write all the questions. I also felt the interview wasn't as organic because I was shoving questions in there.
Yeah.
But what I do now is I title the rounds. So I still have an outline. So that way I never miss anything. And I was very attached to the rounds before because we're the fighting entrepreneur, must have the ding, ding, ding sound. Some guests like Chester, it didn't flow well to do that. And then once he's in a flow, like we just wanted to go with it. So I've kind of like become very attuned to the what's going to do justice to this episode rather than here is the template of all episodes I use. And I'm cool with it. I'm learning more from it. In the end, that's all I care about. So I definitely will say, I think there's a lot of things we can do to treat our guests better. And we'll get there slowly. I want to be able to send them gifts. I want to send them things that they can then post about. But we are still treating our guests way better than most people.
Well, something I was going to say too is like, your guest should be the star of the show. You are just there to worship them, basically, for the hour you're talking.
So the other thing I want to say with guests, I'm going to throw this out there, and I don't know. I see one of the growth hack tricks people say, get your guest to promote it. If the guest is worth anything, they're not promoting your podcast.
Yeah, they really don't like
it. Why? Right? Why would they give you value, give your audience value, and then promote you to their audience? It's a stupid request. So here's what I'll do for people. I'll go ahead and post it on my social media, and that's it. If they ask me to send an email, I'm not even going to do the interview because it's insulting, right? So stop. Much.
We don't ever ask people anymore. What I was getting at is when we helped them in that way, or we'd say like, what do you want to promote? They were much more likely.
Yeah, I didn't say that you said we were asking them to. I'm just kind of on the cusp giving people advice.
Yeah.
You see this on every flippin' Google content piece about growing a podcast. Ask your guests. I'm telling you, as a guest on podcasts, it's one of the most irritating things. I actually once had a contract put in front of me that as a contractual agreement of being a guest on their podcast, I would send an email to it. I would post it to my social media. I would do this. I would do this. I literally looked at it. I laughed. I ripped it, threw it away. I never talked to the person ever again. Why am I going to do that? So you tell your guest, listen, we require nothing more of you than to show up and blow our audience away with great content. We will do all the work we can to make you into a superstar. And you do that, and guess what they end up doing? They end up posting it on their social media for you because they had such a good time. All right.
Yeah, so I have two more. They're really short. One was actually from the Daniel Geffen episode that stuck with me and has continued to stick with me. And that's just the use of Chartable.com. If you go back and listen to that, when he told us Chartable.com exists, that was a knockout round easily.
Yeah.
And Chartable has gotten even better. Like you can make links now where if someone clicks it on an iPhone, it'll send them to iTunes. Unless they have Spotify downloaded, it'll go to Spotify. If they click it on an Android, it'll send them to Google Play. Like they have a ton of analytics. They show you your charts. And then one thing that he told me that was really cool that I've actually helped a few people do now is sometimes people want to be guests on other shows. And one thing that's super cool about Chartable is that they show you the top 400 podcasts, whereas iTunes will show you the top 200. Chartable shows you the top 400. If you just go down to the bottom of those top 400 and you just start asking number 400, number 399, you reach out to them, contact them. And this is more just, to go on their show and promote yourself, promote your own podcast. It's not direct marketing, but that's one super, super easy way that I've actually helped a lot of people do very easily that Daniel Geffen blew my mind about. Finding shows and finding people that are interested in you being a guest. And then the final one is actually you brought up earlier is like just getting in front of people on Facebook with ManyChat. ManyChat and Facebook Lives like changed so much for us when we started doing those. We would run a live in the morning, we would run a watch party in the afternoon. In the middle of the day, we would send a ManyChat, and we had different lists depending on what people wanted to know. If they wanted an episode update every single time we had an episode, we'd send that to a certain group. If we had people that just wanted like a weekly recap, we had a group that we'd send that to.
It's easy on ManyChat because they can tag themselves. They can literally by saying yes, no to stuff, they put themselves into groups.
But one thing that I've helped a lot of people with as well, that's an easy, quick way to get in front of people if you don't maybe have a big email list, is just start sending people ManyChat things on Facebook. Start a page, get people to like it, and then just send ManyChat blasts. It helps a lot. And it's very easy for starting beginners to do.
Really awesome stuff. I'm going to start trying to summarize. I'm overwhelmed. I can only imagine what the listeners are
There's only a little bit of everything too.
And this is just a chunk. Yeah, you're right. But I told you it was going to blow you away with how there's a lot of work that goes into getting 425,000 plus SoundCloud listens to an episode to your podcast. Podcastsbyjoe.com. It's plural. Podcastsbyjoe.com. If you want his help in getting you started. A lot of the knowledge that we're talking about here is compressed. He's got the stuff that we did to kick off this podcast. So hire him and he'll help you out.
I appreciate that.
Now, I want to summarize. You should listen to this again, this whole podcast. If you're looking to start, and what you should do, I should have started with this, one thing at a time. We did not do all of this over one day. It's been 9 months, all right? And we've still implemented way faster than I would recommend most people do. We have a team. We are blessed with multiple people to do multiple things. We've got the ability for one person to be editing while another is reading data, while another is writing copy, while another is talking to a guest. Like, yes, we have that, and that's been a big, big blessing. If you don't have that, don't do all of these things at one time. Do one. I'm going to share with you how we run our social media. I have historical evidence. I can tell you without a shadow of doubt that it made a big impact on the growth of our podcast. Now, the thing is with social media, when you post something on Instagram or you post something on there, sometimes you get like 50 likes and 250 views, and you're like, man, how much could that really be helping my podcast? How many people really watch this little post and then read the comment, click the link, go listen? Like, mathematics would show me, it's not having a huge impact. And it takes a lot of effort to run your social media. So when we were at the peak of our, but by the way, it does make a huge impact, and we have evidence of it. So when we finally grew our social media to, this is what we were doing. We have Facebook. We run the episode as a live. So it's already recorded, but instead of just uploading it as a video, which we tested and it didn't work as well, we play it back. Yep. We literally use a software. What's it called?
Oh, you use XSplit? No, we use XSplit now.
xsplit.com. Okay, XSplit. Just go type in XSplit at Google. It literally connects to your Facebook profile or Facebook page, and you upload the episode into it, hit play, and it plays it back, and it makes it look live on your Facebook page. So we would do that. Then we would post snippets on Instagram. These are edited, and we're using our IGTV to do that. Mm-hmm. And we're editing them. We got a headline at the top, we got transcripts at the bottom, and then you know what we have in every video at the bottom? Anikpodcast.com. Anikpodcast.com. Every single little snippet that goes out. So we post this on Instagram, right? So we started getting active, I think daily at one point, was it? Or at least 3 days a week or something?
Instagram now daily.
Yeah, so daily on Instagram. Then Instagram stories. So when we release a new episode, we would push out a story. LinkedIn, separate posts on LinkedIn that we got an episode out. What am I missing?
We did Twitter and Pinterest too, actually.
Pinterest?
We did Pinterest. I did Pinterest. Come on, guys.
There you go. We're not doing Pinterest anymore, but Joe did. So all of this, and you're like, well, whatever. Like, it's little bits of love here, so much work, right? You'd literally have to have a team member specific because it takes time. If you take a chunk out, put the headline, make it look nice, get the transcript in there, edit, that's a few hours minimum to get one video out that might get a few hundred views. So you're like, So we stopped all of a sudden one day. We just stopped. We're like, stop all the social media stuff. We need to clean things up. We need to simplify things. And our growth was like this, and I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, it tanked.
I mean, it just started going down. And I was like, what is going on? And we were like, 2 weeks of that, and it was going down. I'm like, guys, this is the first time we've had back-to-back decreasing viewership on a podcast. What do we do? And we're like, stop social media. I'm like, that can't be it. What else did we do? And like, really, that's all we did. And I'm like, really? Or turn it back on. Like, let's go back at it and hit it hard. Instantly started going back up. Yep. It's crazy. So now what we've done is decided let's triple down on the social media. That's why we're splitting things up more, getting more active. We discovered just today on this episode, we got to do our Facebook stories. Because on my page, I get like 10 to 15 to 20,000 views of my story. Oh, nice. Yeah, there's a huge market we're missing. We need to optimize the way we do Instagram better. I think our Instagram still, we can improve on kind of how we're engaging with that audience. Apparently, we've got to get back on Pinterest, which we weren't doing for a while, for whatever that's worth.
You have a Pinterest page.
Snapchat, I don't know, but probably not going to do Snapchat. I have like a problem with Snapchat.
You could hire like a Snapchat thing and have a permanent story there.
So, social media has been massive for us. There's a lot of work that goes into growth hacking a podcast. So, what I recommend you do is you pick one thing, get consistent with it, and then find someone on your team or a person, like a virtual assistant. Let them streamline that. Now you got that little thing going. You take on one more thing, systemize it, push it back to your virtual assistant, and now it's going through. Slowly, you can add all these things, and it won't overwhelm you. If you try to do all of this at one time, you're not gonna do the podcast. Okay, it's gonna overwhelm the crap out of you. When we first released our first episode, like I said, it was audio, and we didn't know all of this fancy stuff. We just put it out there. And we have grown it over time, and we're still learning. I have 2 big growth hacking events I'm going to do with this podcast in the near future. One of them is getting our new website up, and that is going to growth hack, you'll see, because I'm going to launch the website, and it's going to create a massive download spree of old episodes, because we have our website, like actually, this podcast, in my opinion, has become like a wealth of marketing and entrepreneurship knowledge, more so than most paid people, paid memberships. So we'll make it searchable, we'll make it indexable, taggable, blah, 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 all that stuff in one site. It's going to create more downloads. Then the second growth hack event I'm going to do, I will not reveal. It is awesome. It's huge. I'm talking maybe noteworthy enough to be like the best thing that's ever happened to podcasts ever. No, I'm kidding. It's pretty big. Yeah, it's pretty big though. I don't want to talk about it though because it's taken a lot of brain power to come up with it. But I believe that with the rate at which we're growing and with that one event that we're going to do, this one thing we're going to do, I think it will springboard this podcast into the top 10s of a lot of different categories. And then we'll talk about it afterwards. Yeah. Now, gentlemen, one of the things I do want to do is I want to create in the future and I think we'll earn the right to do it once we cross, actually, it's funny. Before you told me we're at 425,000 plus SoundCloud, I thought my numbers were saying we're at like 250, 300 in my head. Just pure assumption. So I was like, all right, we're going to do a killer podcast marketing course, only marketing, because that's where we struggled to learn when we hit 1 million, which is not far away now. So I think that's one of the things I want to let everybody know. That's going to be one of my goals. How to create a podcast, how to get it up. That's great. There's a lot of amazing stuff about that. Joe's got a course about that. I want to create one that's literally called Growth Hacking a Podcast because it doesn't exist, and so many people told me it couldn't be done that it's become my passion to go do it.
Yeah, I think the biggest tedious course.
As long as you don't treat the podcast as a side project, it's never really going to get growth hacked. The more you infuse it into your marketing, the better chances. Because think about with Ty Cohen, we are now starting to run ads through Ty Cohen and just pulling from the podcast, and at the tail end of it, just add a pitch where Ty Cohen says, "Hey, I have a free course." So this opens up so many more opportunities in terms of your business and your podcast.
Not to mention, here's the thing: you want to do a podcast and you want to growth hack it to the rate that we're growth hacking it. You got to start building a team that's just about it. Yeah. That's what they do. They're about your podcast. So, guys, I want to wrap up. We've been going for more than an hour. It's been awesome. Congratulations to everybody. Thank you for helping us reach 100 episodes, 425,000. Really appreciate every single one of you that listens. I think I didn't get a chance to thank you, and that's the first person I should be thanking. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the feedback you give us and for sharing these episodes with everybody. Final closing words. You guys have anything you want to say? Burning.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for being on, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Listen, as you know, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. AnikPodcast.com. Go there for all of our amazing episodes and 99 other killer episodes. AnikPodcast.com. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment below. Click subscribe. Click the thumbs up icon and the bell icon. And if you are a iTunes listener, come on. Go leave us a beautiful, wonderful, 5-star, amazing review. Let's get this community out. More entrepreneurs listening. Go to Lurn.com, LURN.com. Sign up for a free lifetime membership. And with that said, one more time. When life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. And listen, go out there, fight for your dreams. Until the next time we speak, this is Anik Singal signing off.
Thanks for listening to The Fighting Entrepreneur with your host, Anik Singal.